Hey guys, in this deconstructing Warhammer 6th edition video, we're going to talk about psychic powers and the allied detachment, as well as some of the force org chart stuff. Okay guys, we're going to talk about psychic powers right now in this part of the video, so Dallas, go for it.
So bear with me, I don't have Psykers and Necrons, but you can still take them as allies, so that's a big thing you might want to think about now, because psychic powers are much more broad and everybody can take them with allies. So now usually you have psychic level masteries, kind of like Grey Knights did, to say, okay, how many psychic powers you can use a turn, which are in essence used as warp charges. You know, one warp charge is one psychic ability.
Yeah.
Almost everything's level 1. It should say in your FAQs on the Games Workshop website what your character is. But you have a warp charge and you cast it just as before. You know, 2d6 on a leadership test, double 6, double 1s. You know, perils. But now there's a small change. If you target an enemy unit, if you get whatever psychic power is off, they get to deny the witch roll, which is on a 6+. They ignore it.
So everyone now has a chance to deny.
Has a small chance. Yep. Has a chance to deny.
Okay. Now, also some of the spells might take more than one warp charge.
Right.
As well, you got to use your warp charges to activate a frost weapon or a power weapon.
Right. Yeah. To activate a force weapon.
Force weapon. There you
to activate a force weapon, that takes one of your charges. And yeah, there's some big spells which take 2 warp charges. So instead of casting 2 spells, you can only cast that one. And then yeah, usually if you buy before, you know, everybody bought their own psychic abilities. Now, if you can buy one, you can choose to use those as before, same as usual, or you can take all those spells and roll for them one at a time from the 5 types in the back of the book.
Right.
So it's a little bit like fantasy for rolling for magic abilities, but there's some nuances.
Right. But if you pick from your codex your own power, like say, wolf priests pick their the wolf powers, they get to choose.
Yes, so you still get to choose like before. Just now you have the option of doing the old way or doing the rulebook new randomizing way with the new abilities.
Now, how do you think the psychic power is going to affect the game, though, all these changes to it? A lot more options for people?
Yeah, a lot more options. All of a sudden you have a whole new list of psychic abilities opened up to you. They're relatively easy to get off. They're hard to stop unless you buy psychic defense. Like the wolves have the best psychic defense probably in the game, because you can trick out like one squad to have deny the witch on a 4+ with your psychic hood. Right. You can also do, I think it's your frost weapon, right?
Well, the weapon
also gets another 4+, and there's a talisman or something that the unit can deny it on a 5+. So you get like multiple rolls.
Yeah, multiple protections.
And then like Eldar have the whole thing like, oh, you have to roll 3d6 for your psychic powers instead of 2. So and then Necrons have like a little bubble aura on an extra 4+ to ignore.
Right.
So you might see a little bit more of that now, but we'll have to see how widespread psychic powers get.
Now, I guess people, they just have to be choose what they like better, the power in their codex or choosing the power from the main rule book.
Correct.
Right. Is there any advice you give them from choosing what?
Yeah. So I mean, you go to the back. You can also buy the psychic cards, which helps you a lot. You're gonna have to look to see what your army is, and you have to read through these because it is also random what you get.
Right.
So make sure you pick a list that has a good Primaris power, because you can always default one spell back to that. So typically, Biomancy I like a lot. Like Tyrannid's got a big boost with that. A lot of their spells are huge. Like, you know, what's that? A toughness 9 flying hive tyrant. You can get, so stuff like that is scary. So Biomancy is like close combat, self-buffing, a few damage shooting abilities. Divination, it looks like it's more of a shooting army type, because you get to reroll hits, ward saves, rerolling wounds and stuff. Pyromancy I don't like quite as much. It's just more templates, more fire, but a lot of it's weak.
Yeah. So
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Telekinesis, it's not too bad. It's got some all-around things. You'll just have to look through that to see if you like it or not. And telepathy is not bad either. Psychic Shriek's a nice base spell, and there's a couple cool ones here. More of like fearless or making morale tests and stuff like that.
More about psychic buffing or something like
psychology,
that.
I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it for all
those are those 5.
Okay, great.
But you got to look through it. You got to read them in carefully, because also there's different types. Like the big thing is that a small thing is blessings. Since you cast it at your own squad, you cannot do deny the witch on it. because the enemy, you're not targeting the enemy, so the enemy doesn't get to deny the witch against their squad.
Oh, so even if you had a psychic hood, or maybe like my rune axes?
I think that's two different. If it's a psychic hood, that's now improved deny the witch.
Right.
So if you can't deny the witch, which you can't do against blessings, you don't get to use it.
Good point.
But I think your frost weapon, or whatever your runic weapon, it's on. I think it's like if a spell is cast on a 4+, you ignore it.
Right.
So
but
that
I think
still
it has.
works.
I think the wording is that if you're targeted.
Yes, if you're
I'm
targeted.
not sure. You know,
but
just look in your own codex.
Yeah, but blessing doesn't target you.
Yeah.
So that's why biomancy is pretty good.
Okay. Another important thing is when you're trying to choose your spells and stuff like that, it's important to take a look at what if the spell, the random spell you pick, how many warp charges it takes. Because you got to remember, unless you're going to pay the points to be, or pay a character that's going to have a high mastery level, you're not going to have that many warp charges. At the most 2, maybe, on the average. So watch what you pick. Remember, for your psyker, how many warp charges you can take per turn.
Right, and also remember that you can buy multiple spells, but you don't get multiple warp charges. So if you buy extra spells, you get a high chance of getting what you want, but you can only cast like 1 spell a turn if you only have 1 charge.
Yeah, so just pay attention to how you're buying these spells and stuff. Okay, so we're going to go over a little about the Force Org chart and the allied detachment, some of the warlord powers. So,
right. So to start off with, standard Force Org as before. However, at 2K and above, you get to use 2 Force Orgs.
Right.
Below that, so let's say you have a normal, let's say you're doing a 1,500 point game, you have your standard Force Org, 2 HQs total. You have to have 1 HQ normally, minimum, 2 troops. However, now you can buy a fortification as well. In addition, that has anti-air and good defenses.
Right. So yeah, go through the book and look at some of these fortifications, because they do change the game a little, I think. Yep.
And then the big one is allied detachment. So now, at any points level, you can take a small army, in essence, from another codex and use that with your army.
It has to be the same, that one same codex, but different from your main detachment.
Correct. So then the minimum is you got to take 1 HQ and you got to take 1 troops. Then you, in addition to that, you can take 1 elite, 1 fast attack, 1 heavy, and 1 extra troop for a standard standard size game.
Now, if you go over 2K, in essence, you double it up.
Yeah, if you unlock another Force Org chart, you have an option to do 2 Force Org charts. Then, if you have 2 Force Org charts, you can do 2 allied detachment Force Orgs.
Okay.
So that's a big deal. It's like, let's say there's all sorts of combinations you can do out there.
Right.
But there's some limitations to how well they interact.
Right.
Because then there's this big chart on page 113 of the rule book where it defines how well of allies different armies work together.
Exactly.
Because like Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines, that's not going to happen.
Right. So is it not going to happen? Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Oh, they hate each other.
Yeah, they definitely hate each other. But again, I mentioned it in the overview video where there are level of alliances, which is who you're matched up with. Obviously, Space Wolves with Grey Knights get along perfectly, so they kind of work like a one army. Then you got other armies where it's an allied of convenience, where what is it that?
Actually, your convenience with Grey Knights.
No, I'm great. Oh, convenience Grey Knights.
Yeah, if you're Battle Brothers, that means you act normally. They counted as your own unit, so you can cast psychic powers on them. Your independent characters can join. You just can't get into their transports.
That's right, because Grey Knights are assholes, right? So basically, when you're allied to convenience, you can't benefit from the warlord traits, cannot be joined by allied independent characters, and are not counted as friendly users. So you have like restrictions on that.
So the big thing is they're sort of like enemy units, but you just don't do anything to them, so they just kind of ignore each other.
Okay.
If you're desperate allies, which is red on this chart, then not only can you help them out anyway, if you're within 6 inches of each other at the start of the battle, or start of the turn, you have to roll a dice on a 1. Your guys are way too paranoid and they won't do anything.
And that's the rule called one-eyed open. And I think that's kind of funny, but at least you still get to ally with them.
You still get to use them, but you almost want to keep the armies on other halves of the board, you know, like two kids. Play nice, everybody.
And then you got the armies where there's no way you're going to be allied.
Which sucks for Tyranids because they can't ally with anybody.
Yeah, poor Tyranids. Oh well. That's okay. Now, what are your thoughts about allied detachment? You think it's going to bring the game into OP-ness, or?
We'll have to see over time. I'm still a little worried just because there's so many combos you can do. Like all of a sudden you can have Tau with a Land Raider, like with Mephiston and a huge squad of, you know, close combat Marines in front. So there's options to give you bonuses, but at the same time, each codex has its own weaknesses and whatnot. And then before everybody got used to that, and that's how your codex plays.
Right.
Now you can completely overcome that with allies, which I guess could be a good or a bad thing. It's hard to tell right now, but we'll have to see how tournaments go. If people are going to start, you know, like overruling allies and whatnot. But there's some pretty good combos you can do out there.
But what I do like about the allied detachments is the options and all the creative things you can come up with.
You can do a bunch of things. So I think it'll be fun. We'll have to see how the tournament scene deals with this, because I think there might be some But for the most part, it is fun, especially if you have another army, or if you're thinking about buying another army. You can start off really small. You don't even need a full force org.
And another great tactic from GW, make you go buy more stuff.
Buy more stuff. Yep.
But yeah, definitely when we're going to run our tournaments, we have to go through this, I think. We're going to have to really figure out if it's going to mess things up or not.
And then also there's a small tidbit kind of along the allies thing, is now you have a warlord, which in fantasy was like the general. In 40k, the warlord is a new bonus. It's your highest leadership model. If you tied, you get to choose. Then there's 3 tables you get to roll on at the beginning of the game, so it's a random ability your warlord has. Some of them are really nice, some of them are A lot of times you'll run into one that you just won't use, just because that's the way your army works. But you want to study these 3, either command traits, personal traits, or strategic traits.
Right.
See which table you like, see how your army works well, give yourself the most options that are beneficial, and then roll on that table.
Now I'm telling you right now, these traits are really randomized, and you might get something that you won't need to use, and it's kind of a luck of the dice type of thing. But if you get something that's really good, it's really good.
Yeah, like one useless one would be like outflanking. It's like you either get to like re-roll your reserve rolls or outflanking, but it's like, from a lot of my armies, I don't have any outflankers, so it's like, okay,
whatever.
But there's another good one, like let's say you have a whole, last game I played, we had ruins everywhere, and my opponent rolled Conqueror City, so you get to move through ruins normally, plus you get an extra cover save in ruins. So all of a sudden, you know, he went from having 4+ save in ruins to having a 3+ save. Oh. Go to ground, it's a 2+ cover save.
But that's good. That's what the traits are all about. Are they useless or really helpful? I don't know. So sometimes you might get in between. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. And do you have any conclusions about the psych powers?
It's kind of cool. I like how you can roll from. I like the other options. Plus, with allies, you now get to take psychers, so that kind of works hand in hand. So we'll have to see what crazy combos people come up with their allies. Plus, there's some really cool things you can do with psychic powers that will change the game, as we saw. Like if you play fantasy, you can definitely tip your combat completely if you get a couple psychic powers off. But
okay, so again, the allied detachment, big change in 6th edition. If you guys have any ideas about what you're going to put in your allied detachment, that'll be really cool to hear about. So why don't you post them in the comments below. Have any questions for me or Dallas, post them in the comments below. Right?
Sure.
And that's it, guys. Remember, same old thing, blah, 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 sub, rate, subscribe, share. And thank you very much, Dallas.
Sure.
Talk to you guys later.